wanted to get together with the contractors and people that may have questions about the changes that are going to be made from 18 to 24. So we thought that this would be a good meet and greet. I have Todd Tamlin with the Fire District, and then Jose Gonzalez with Safeco, and they would be the main people to go over the difference in codes. And if you have questions, you're more than welcome to ask. Hello.
Hello. Good to see you anyway.
Ask questions. Sorry.
Good morning. My name is Jose Gonzalez. I'm the building official with City of helping the town here with the building codes. So this is just a high-level overview of the adoption that we're looking at for the next version. We're jumping from the 2018 to the 24 international codes. On the international codes, we're just updating from the 2018 to the 24. Mostly as written. We're not going to make too many amendments. We don't like to make too many amendments in the code. Try to keep it consistent the way it's written. Two codes that are coming up this year are codes mandated by the state. That's the Y1 Urban Interface Code. Estamos at this point, it's almost a formality in the town. The areas that could affect are on the outside right now, so they don't affect any current work going on right now. So, but it is a mandate by the state that we adopt that code with the next adoption. The other code that will have an impact is the electric ready and solar ready code. And basically what that means, by adopting that code, builders will have to prepare homes for electric heating, also prepped for solar systems, and also prepped for electric chargers on the garage. So you have to preference to a little bit bigger size in your panel. You don't have to run electrical on that, but you do have to run the conduit. Again, why we're doing this, the state is mandated that everybody adopts that code, or the Y1 code. We'll show a map here, the areas that affect here in town. This just kind of goes really quickly into who's supposed to adopt it, and basically everyone, every organization, county, town, cities, everybody has to adopt that. Be in compliance with the state mandate. This is a map. So those areas in yellow and orange show class 1 and class 2 from the wildland code assessment. And I don't have the city limits, but Todd, do you remember where the city limits are right now, like anything like that or not?
Yeah, so it's really the area, the big area, just kind of right here in this L-shaped area that could affect the city at some point in the future as that develops out. I don't know who the home builders, I think there's already a plan in the works to build that out. So whoever the home builder would end up being may have to address some of these code requirements for those homes in that area. There's a process, and I don't want to get too deep into it, but there's a process that we can go through to try to get that changed, to get that map changed, but it does cost a little bit of money to get it remapped. We have to hire somebody to come take a look at it that understands topography and grasslands, things like that to help. Because in the long run, once you put all the houses in there, that goes away. That restriction kind of goes away once it's all filled in. So there's still some little things that could be worked out in the future as things grow out. But that right now, that's the biggest impact for the city, is kind of just that piece that's coming out through here, that's kind of developing to the east of the city. The blue is kind of the city limits. You can kind of tell, it's hard to see on that map, but that's kind of the city limits currently. But it is moving east, so it could affect some of it a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. This is just the same map, a little bit bigger, provides a little bit more detail, but I couldn't figure out how the delineation of the city limits in the map when I created this flyer. I figured that out since then, but I have not painted this map. So this just talks about mitigation. But basically what the state wants us to do, or builders to do, is mitigate to minimize the fire hazard. And depending on the impact, class 1 or class 2 zones, that drives what kind of mitigation you need to do. Out here is not a big deal. The mounds, so they're a bit more critical to proper mitigation of vegetation. This is just showing the, basically in the wildland, in the mounds, everything that's in the house has to be non-combustible. Meaning no vinyl fences, no vinyl siding. The eaves have to be properly graded, white material. That's not going to be the case here, but that's just a sample of the state provided. So this is the electric ready and solar ready code. Again, mandated by the state, we have to adapt with it. We also have to adapt an energy code that is the 21 or newer. So we're just jumping to the 24 energy code. It's issued to comply with the 21. I think it's a little bit cheaper than the 21. However, there's an increase compared to the 2018. These are the requirements from the solar ready code, of residential, commercial, and depending the size of the commercial, under 10,000 square feet, you have certain requirements. Over 10 are different set of requirements as well, but that's for apartment buildings. Residential applies, or will apply to single-family homes and townhomes. And this is basically what's expected. The impact, electrical wiring or raceway to provide ability for replacement of water heaters, furnace, stove, equipment like that. Panel, so you have to have a panel space, everything has to be labeled. We're expecting this to be the custom electrical part, just to comply with that code. Actually, the size of the house will impact that, but that was the estimate that we got from a couple of contractors. I don't know if you have electricians here that could help us with that. Are you familiar with that code?
It's probably low.
That's low in the low end. Okay. So again, it just depends on the size of the house and
Yeah. I mean,
layout.
I think what I've seen is probably closer to 1 to 2,000
Okay.
to prep that stuff.
So that's more in reality, yeah. But you think it's more 3, 4, more on the 1 to 2, based on what you have there?
Yeah, I think so.
This is some analysis that we got on the impact of the residential code. We're not seeing a big impact like we have seen in the past. And now have this flyer, we can send it up and share it with everyone. If you have you guys' email, I'd be glad to share this with you. We're not expecting a big impact from the residential code itself. There are other impacts from the energy and the solar ready, but from the residential code, we're not expecting a big impact with the changes. There are not really many changes. A lot of the changes in the new code are technical rearrangements. A couple of changes do impact the cost, but we're thinking it's going to be in the 2 to 4, maybe $5,000 range. Again, just from the residential code itself. Some of the big sections that impact are this here in the bottom. the radon, and the radon requirements, the intent was to adopt the last adoption. We will propose that adoption this year as well, to continue with that requirement. Again, here's some of the costs that we're expecting here. Going from to the 21, these are the impact expected. Going to the 24, this is the impact expected. So not big changes there, not a big impact. Any questions there? I know this table was a little bit confusing, it's not very easy to read. On the energy code, this is going to be a little bit bigger impact than the changes on the residential code. We're expecting to change the impact here to be about between 4 or 5 to 10. And it shows here the impact on gas and also on electric. If you go out all gas, we're in Climate Zone 5 with the slab. We're thinking the impact is about $4,100. With the basement, it's 37. If you go electric, the impact is 72. With the basement, 68. We're not quite sure why the basement is cheaper, but the reports and studies that we saw showed that as a cheaper option to go there. One thing that 24 is a little bit cheaper to comply with than the 21 is that section 408 in the energy code became a lot more flexible. The 21 energy code was more strict in a way. 24 got more flexible, so that's where the savings come in regards to the impact from one code to the next. This is one item that we're considering this year, sprinkler systems. It's been in the code since 2012. It regularly has been amended. We're proposing the adoption this year. So this is one area where we would like to get feedback from you guys, builders, to see how you guys feel about this requirement. I have here duplexes and townhomes, but also we want to get an opinion on single-family homes. I don't know if you guys have an idea on the impact regarding the installation, what the cost may be.
It's about $5,000 a unit.
For single-
$5 a foot at least, so total code combined, you're probably at $10 a foot for the code changes, plus an additional 5 for sprinkler. So then we're at 15.
And I just know for the heads, we're paying about $300 a head, and our townhomes have 15 in them, and then the high pressure valves are about another $1,000 on that too.
Are you guys doing the 13D?
I don't know, I just asked my purchasing what the cost was before we came.
I think we're paying a little bit more than that.
13D
Yeah.
or 2409. Is anybody using 2409 or excuse me 2904? 2904.
Doesn't seem like anybody's using that 29.
Really?
I guess there aren't many people that can design it, is my understanding, so there can be a little bit more expensive, but it goes through an engineer. So, yeah.
Yeah, the P2904, I mean, it's a plumber that has to be certified to put it in. Plumbing companies can do it that
You
way.
have to meet a specific flow rate, I think.
Right, and it's a little, I think it's a little bit less than a 13D that you can do.
Yeah.
And it's more or less part of the system of the house, it's just plumbed into to the house. It's a passive system, so it's circulating with the house, doesn't have water just sitting stagnant like the 13Ds do, but this one.
We're currently using that in Johnstown and our townhomes up there, and that's what we're gonna implement in our townhomes here in Fort Lupton as well.
The
and-
2904?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it does work well with the plumbers installing it while they're installing the roofs. So it's been good for us. It is about $7,000 a house.
Mhm. Okay, that's good.
Size of the house, square footage?
1,200 square foot town.
Okay.
Yeah, we're probably more in the $10,000 or $12,000 range for 2,500 square foot house.
210D?
Yeah.
Yeah, that tends to be a little bit more expensive.
Yeah.
29. So, again, we know that jurisdictions have it, and obviously it's coming from Denver Metro, it's moving on. We'd like to propose it for both residential and commercial and townhomes. At the very least, our goal will be to have it on the townhome, so that's really our recommendation right now. So we will take also your feedback on that regard. As far as actually cost is a concern.
It's a cost, it's a pretty high cost, so.
We have this, the solar rating code, the change in energy code. This is another requirement that adds, so, all of that gets consideration through the process.
And I think, and Jose's gonna get to probably another slide, but is the cost between those two systems and what you can not have to do, with firewalls and things like that, does it end up evening out a little bit?
Sure, yeah. I think the system itself is still probably more expensive than the components we put in that are already fire resistant.
That you can not have to put in if
Yeah.
you do a sprinkler system?
Yeah,
It's still a little more expensive, you say?
I would say yes.
A little, about, just a chip, kind of,
Oh, that's not,
a couple thousand, 5,000,
Probably,
4,000? Okay.
yeah.
So this table here comes from the 24 residential code. In the past, the code didn't really give you much concessions. They just required the sprinkler system, and all the other life and safety systems had to be in place. In this code version, they're providing some caveats. So, for example, if you install sprinkler system, the separation from a 2-hour rated firewall goes down to a 1-hour rated assembly, meaning you don't have to have a structurally dependent separation there. It's a lot cheaper to do a partition rated wall than an actual firewall. So, that's one of the big exchanges, if you will. Bedrooms in the basement, it only requires one egress, emergency egress. It doesn't have to be on the bedroom itself if the basement is sprinkled. So another caveat. Separation from property line is also diminished. Openings, you can have bigger openings close to the property line if you sprinkle the house. So those couple are the bigger ones. I think the biggest one is the firewall in regards to the exchanges you get for installing the fire sprinkler system. Again, depending on the design, it may or may not be one for one, but it saves a little bit in that regard. So that's what I had in fire sprinklers. I know Todd, if you want to add more there.
I think the only thing I guess I would add to that and the reasoning, I mean, it sounds like some of you are already doing it, so we know it's coming, it's moving, it's trying to get to be more of a equal across the board with everybody. And the cities are always, their concern is the builder's gonna be upset with the extra cost, but with the new code, it sounds like it's at least trying to equal that cost out to where it's not, too heavy, just because of the sprinkler system, to make it a little more appealing, I guess, for the contractors to be able to take that, swallow it a little bit easier. Obviously my side of it is life safety goes up, and now we're talking about a lot more electrical that can be brought into the house, batteries, being brought into the house, and it just increases our level of worrying about that kind of stuff, because these batteries, obviously you probably see it all on the news, these lithium ion batteries in the little scooters, cars, stuff like that, burning the house down. So that's kind of my push with it, is especially with the new electric code, is to try to improve that life safety portion of it. And so that's kind of why one reason we wanted to get you all together to see what your opinions on those type of things, because I get it a little varying different ways, and everybody's got a little stronger opinion or not, is it that big of an impact, because that's what the city's gonna wanna hear too. The council's gonna wanna know, what do the builders have to say about that, is that gonna scare everybody off? But I'm not really feeling that portion of it. I understand there might be a little bit of a cost increase, but by the time you put all this extra electrical stuff in there for people, maybe you're not putting it in all right now, but you're at least putting it there so it's available, so people can start adding to, and now we're just increasing the fire load to a resident, especially a single family home. Two, I know the townhomes and duplexes are more of a big push because of everybody's condensed in one spot, and you can take one fire, could take out 5 or 6 of them in an incident. But homes, the regular single family homes, kind of the same way. You get a problem with those, with that much extra stuff being brought in. So I guess that's kind of my push on this fire sprinklers, why I'd like to at least see them at minimum in the townhomes, but I am pushing to see if the council will go ahead and do the single family homes from first of the year. So I'd like to hear from y'all what your kind of opinions are on some of that. Maybe I'm jumping ahead with the group, I don't know, but yes, sir.
Have you guys evaluated the water supply for all the new construction? Because
Yeah.
we're running into areas where they test up front, we design to the tested load, and then when we get to actual install, it doesn't work.
Right. I think Fort Lupton's in a pretty good spot. I know there's some places like Mountain View area over there, Erie, places like that have some really bad stuff where they've had to put the pumps and tanks in to make it work. But I think Fort Lupton's progressive in the fact, they're trying to put up a new water tank here shortly to get the pressure up. So I don't really foresee a big issue with that part of it for Fort Lupton. This is all new build stuff. I'm not talking about retrofitting or going backwards, but all new build stuff. And so far, all of our system for Fort Lupton's been great. And I'm pretty sure we're not going to have a big issue with that once it's designed out for it. Because like I said, they're very progressive right now, keeping up with the pumps, building a new water tank for extra pressure, because the city's moving east, so we need to start pushing water uphill now, almost. So yeah, I really don't foresee a big issue with trying to get those flows where we need them, to not have to add extra stuff to the system. Yes, sir.
Are these code changes already resolved, or they're proposed, being studied? What's the adoption date or the enforcement date?
So, our goal is to have them adopted by the first of the year. We're going to be running a couple of weeks behind of that, but that's the goal. So we wanted to have this meeting to get some feedback from you guys, and then prepare the presentation for the town and start the adoption process. I think we may meet the first of the year goal, but in maybe a couple of weeks.
And when will the enforcement date be? Because that doesn't give us a lot of time to go and get plans remastered and back to you guys to get approved for a hard start.
We'll have a creation date. The effective date depends on when the actual adoption date. But that one, we still don't have it picked up yet necessarily. So once it gets adopted, we'll have a running one with the right wording, but we'll have a time before that actually becomes effective, and then anything after that day, we'll need to meet the new codes.
Does the city currently have a what's the current timeline that you typically would use between adoption and enforcement? 30 days, 16 days?
60 days.
An ordinance of 60 days. So it'd be at least 60 from the adoption.
Do you have a public hearing date scheduled yet with council?
No.
No, that's what we're gonna work on next. And actually, we have a meeting with them tomorrow to set up that schedule.
We wanted this meeting before we set that up officially, so we can talk.
Is there any plans to allow early submittals, knowing that you're gonna adopt, to kind of get the ball rolling on your plans?
I think that would be something that you could do based on the date that it's going to be approved.
And if you're allowed to apply for the project, then you can apply before the next adoption, and you will be reviewed under the current code that you apply. Yeah, we will allow that.
Actually, for the record, I would like to go around and get this here today so we can get that documented. So thank you for coming in. I'm Todd Hodges, I'm the project manager. But if we could, I think Shannon, if you start, we'll start a sign-up sheet if you guys don't mind. That way I know who's here and contact stuff, so we can reach out if we've got any other.
I think from what I've seen in the other cities, we had a meeting like this with Commerce City, and they did it about a year after they adopted these codes and enforced them.
Oh,
So I appreciate you guys getting ahead of this, because they did a hard, this is when we're enforcing it with no information, and then it took us about 9 months to get our plans approved, because every builder flooded them with plans. So that's why I asked if you implement this on the 1st, but you're not gonna enforce it for a few months, that gives us time to get those plans done, get them through you guys, get them approved. Because if there's a lot of kickback and all of us builders are going to town at the same time, we have to stop construction, and that just hurts our business
Yeah,
dramatically.
no, the goal is not to blindside you. We want to work with you. We're not here to create another step for you to plan. We're here to help you guys, because at the end of the day, it helps the town. So we're not here trying to put out roadblocks, but yeah, we'll work with you. You guys, you have a design and a subdivision ready to go, you submit for that. That's what's going to get reviewed.
So we're getting ready to start before the end of the year, this year in Murata Farms. So if we through approvals, then we're good through that community.
Yeah, and if we review and approve your masters, we will honor that.
Okay.
We're not going to make you switch codes in the middle of, after a master has been reviewed.
well, that would be unusual.
Appreciate it.
We're trying to be a partner, not a
Yeah.
commander, so it is. And the council truly does care. In fact, when we did the initial, we got to start with them before, because it's always an issue, because they take this seriously. And the mayor actually asked if we were going to be talking to you guys, and we said, yes, that's the next step, before we even start the hearing process. So once we start that hearing process, if there's items that you may not agree with, that's the time to do that at the meeting. Hopefully we can address that, and you guys have a certainty that we can work together, because that's the key. Personally, I don't care if you are under the 18 or the 25, on the planning side, and then I see the revenues from the building, so that's what I really care about. So if there's a bunch of permits, that's fine, we can handle that, but in reality, it's just having that time, like you said, to reboot, to see where that's gonna start based on the project. And it's good that we're getting this out and talking about those lines in the sand, where it would be like Murata, where you've already got a whole set of plans, and all of a sudden we gotta go back and change.
Yeah.
Never the intent.
Yeah.
That's why I wanna get in front of you guys. So we've got builders,
Horizon.
okay?
Yeah.
Bessler Homes.
LGI homes.
LGI. Being commercial.
I don't think it was just for me, or I can gravel permits.
Well, you know what? We might need you. Great, thank you. Thanks for coming in. We really do appreciate it, because this is what makes the community a community. So I'll let these guys take back over, but, I get to do the political stuff. So.
Just one more, as part of the new code adoption, are you guys also taking on the model low energy and carbon code?
I'm gonna sit down.
I was told
This
that's
question,
a
I'll let
requirement.
Todd answer it though.
I was told that's a requirement if you adopted any new codes in the state now.
Not yet. And that's why we're going with the energy and the solar ready. We're not jumping to the carbon ready code yet. And I say yet because eventually it will be a mandate as well, so. By jumping to this adoption now, we avoid adopting that carbon code until 27, perhaps later. So we will push that one down the road a little bit more by adopting and updating codes right now. If we wait until next year, then we will have to bring that one in, and we don't want to do that one.
Political question, but is the town engaged in any home rule discussions with the state or no?
I believe we are, I don't know the specifics, but I mean, every town gets involved in home rule. I believe that's the right word. Changes and as far as by the feedback, I don't know how the state takes that, but I believe they are involved in that.
I'll piggyback on your comment about single family and batteries. As far as I know, Firestone's the only one that does it, and it drives me nuts, but they require smoke or heat detectors in the garages because they have house burn down because of thermal runaway. And I don't know how sprinkler systems are built, but single family, is there an option just to go to sprinklers in the garage versus the entire house for a single family?
If we're able to get the city to adopt the IRC sprinkler codes in there, my amendment for the fire code will have a few additions to it. One would be with the fire, at least one sprinkler head in the garage over the egress door, just in case people have to go that way to get out. I'm not looking at heat detectors or any of that type of thing. Once you do the sprinklers, it kind of takes that away from having to do that kind of thing. I do want to add that the sprinkler system, the horn strobes, they require that in like a living area, you know, but there is there's a piece of equipment that can be put on the riser for the sprinkler head that can tie into like all the smoke detectors in the house, so that you can use those as your way to alert people, so you don't have to just do one single horn strobe someplace in the house. It actually ties into the whole system in the house. So if the smoke detector goes off, they all, typically they all go off now anyway, but now it'll be tied in, it would be tied into the sprinkler system. So if the sprinkler head went off someplace where the smoke detector didn't catch it right away, then it alerts everything, as well as a horn strobe on the outside of the home with a fire department connection, a small connection on the outside for that. And that may only be for tanks and pumps. I'll have to review, go back on that one, but yeah. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's.
I'm just thinking if you're gonna entertain cost-wise to put sprinklers in single families, are there flexibilities that you can mandate in certain areas because of concerns as opposed to doing the entire house?
Yeah. And the sprinkler to me is more. To me, it works better than the heat detectors, because once the heat detector goes off, the fire is going. Right. It's probably been going for a little bit for it to build up.
Just to get it on.
Now the sprinkler is going to protect that egress, at least if you have to go that way through the garage to get out of the house.
So what I've been told and what we've seen so far, the sprinkler systems have not been required in the garage, because if you're doing the system that ties into the water, you have to condition the garage or use a separate system for the garage that has chemical in it to prevent freeze-ups. So that's going to exponentially increase the cost of these things.
So to fix that though, since you're only, my recommendation, my requirement in the code would be that it would just be a single head in the garage over the door coming in and out of the garage to the house. And you can get the dry pipe between the two, so that they make a flexible pipe that can go between, so it can come back into the house and stay in the conditioned area, but have the head on the outside or in the garage, and that takes care of, you don't have to condition the garage that way.
And usually it's not a requirement to sprinkle the entire garage, for obvious reasons. I think that's what Todd mentioned, is more to protect the egress system.
Okay.
Yeah, but I wouldn't, I don't foresee the whole garage would have to be sprinkled if we can do this, other option with the dry system.
And that's not where we're going, as far as requiring the garage.
Exactly.
That's not what we're going.
That's only if you identify the garage as the egress path, though, right?
Right, if it's the main, if it's the only way in and out, then it would probably have to be, but, it's just more to protect that egress if you have to get out through the garage. To slow it down. And I've seen fires where a single head in the garage has stopped it, slowed it way down, till the fire department gets there to take care of it. And it was just at the door. They put it, and it still put a fire out way off one side of the garage, in there. So it worked really good that way to save. But to your point, talking about Commerce City, I've heard and I've heard now that they are actually getting all that revoked. That the Home Builders Association is going after them because they didn't do that right. So that's why we want to do this, to make sure we're doing it right. We don't have that after, a couple of years later, have a group come in and go, hey, you guys screwed this all up. You can't do it, and make everybody go backwards, So that's part of this exercise also, to make sure we're getting everybody's informed of what we want to try to accomplish.
We definitely appreciate that. I'm sure the whole group will agree with that.
Yeah, no surprises. Try not to.
Any other questions?
Are there numbers for home fires in the last 10 years that kind of support what's happening?
So not so much Colorado. Everything I can find is almost like 15 years old. A lot of it's coming from Arizona, like Tempe, Arizona. Scottsdale has a bunch of stuff. And we're talking big cities that have a lot of fire. We don't have a lot of fires, knock on wood. But it's hard to, I would say it's kind of hard to put a cost on safety of it, and you don't know when it's going to happen, right? So the numbers I've seen for those areas has been crazy in the favor of sprinkler systems. I mean, we're talking 80% saving a house, not just on top of saving people, letting them get out. And I know there's always that argument to say, well, sure, the sprinkler's there to help you get out of the house, puts the fire out early, or contains it for the fire department to get there. But I also look at it as, if you're not home, the sprinkler goes off, it's going to contain that fire until, the horn strobe outside alerts somebody to call 911. Because people want to argue the fact, well, like insurance maybe might want to argue the fact, well, the water's going to run and run and run and run and run. Well, that's why we put the horn strobe on the outside, to try to draw attention to it. But what's worse, burning your whole house down, without the sprinklers, or having a little bit of water damage to have to clean up and fix it. Those costs also are in there, and that's a huge number between having to rebuild a whole house versus maybe a room that got flooded out because the sprinkler went off, put the fire out. So, looking at that and the impact to the community, we got townhomes that you're putting a lot of people in a small space. One person has a bad day, catches their home on fire, spreads to the other one if it doesn't get caught in time. Now you've taken out maybe 2-3 families versus you've got one family that's maybe out for, 6 months or something to remodel and get everything put back together versus burning three homes down in that aspect of it. So the numbers, even though they're 15 years old, the sprinkler systems have been building, have been getting more popular, so that number just keeps going up across the board, across the United States, wherever they're using the systems. So they haven't really, I can't find anything newer than that. They always want to use that 15-year-old report from Arizona where they started doing that. But they had a lot of fires and they've had a lot of saves because of the sprinkler systems. Like I said, 80% versus of positive with the sprinkler versus not having a sprinkler system in there. So you try to tie it all together with, having people out of their homes, affecting the community. Even the water supply. Water is huge, right? Right now, as expensive as water is. If we had sprinkler systems taking care of the fire for us, we're using way less water from a fire engine, to do. Our engines carry 1,000 gallons of water. A typical house fire, we're going through probably, 5,000-6,000 gallons of water that we're flowing from the city system, the good water, versus you got a sprinkler head putting out 7 gallons to 8-10 gallons a minute. That's going to suppress that fire right away for us to get there. Now we're probably only going to use maybe 50 gallons from a hose to go in there and just finish off, if there's anything to finish off at that point, type of thing. So you can look at the environmental impact of it, because the more water we have to flow through those bigger hoses, that water's got to come somewhere, and it's contaminated with all the junk that's been burning. So you got all that stuff maybe running down the street into the storm drains. So there's a lot of aspects, that come back to the positive aspect of having a sprinkler system, and maybe has a little bit more cost to it. But then again, I ask, how do you put a cost on life safety in there to try to avoid, $5,000 or $6,000 extra? And I get housing costs are expensive, but I've also seen some research on the fact that the younger generation right now, you start talking about life safety for their families, younger people, they're actually pretty in favor of buying a house up front that already has a lot of that extra life safety aspect to it. So, again, we're not going backwards. We're not retrofitting or any of that kind of stuff, because that's where you're really going to get into the expensive part of it, is to put a sprinkler system in. So I don't know. So hopefully that answers your question. That's a long way around. Any other questions? Cool.
I think that's all we have. Have my business card there in the corner, please grab one. Let us know. Send us your comments, code questions. If you see anything in the new code that you're not quite sure what it is, let us know. Send us your comments, maybe options, maybe what other towns have done that we should consider. What other towns have done that you don't like, right? Because we like we mentioned before, we want to help you get there. We're not here to put roadblocks. We have a job to do, obviously, but we want to work with you on trying to get there. We're not your adversary, so let us know your comments. We will take into consideration your concerns. And as soon as we have scheduled dates, we will add them to the website. That way you're informed when those hearing dates are coming in. And we also, once the process is finished, we will provide a deadline as far as hard line when enforcement will take place. We'll try not to surprise you. Scholars it is.
And can you send this presentation out to us?
Yes, I will send that, as well as other code changes. It's not going to be all the code changes on the residential code, but the more critical ones. That way you have that, you can make better or provide better feedback.
Yes, that'd be great.
Who's gonna offer the plan review for the fire sprinklers?
That would be through us, through the fire district. And And I know that can be an issue too, but the plan, like anybody else, if you have 5 models that you want to do, we approve those 5. This is my thought process right now. We approve those 5 models. That's what it is. And then do some rough inspections and then maybe some spot inspections as it goes along, just so we're not using up everybody's time trying to get a plan review done for each home. You know, I'm still working on how that really looks. Working with some other communities around. Mountain View's one of the bigger ones. They have a pretty good program so far. It sounds like that they do for a lot of their cities, because the majority of Boulder County in itself requires sprinklers anyway, but now some of the cities have all adopted. Last year, the year before, a lot of the cities, after the fire, of course, went through, they all adopted the sprinkler stuff. So they're getting pretty good at their system over there. So I'm trying to borrow and steal some of their stuff from them. So.
Do you have the resources to do the code enforcement and reviews, or is that an appropriation you're still looking for?
We'll probably have to boost a little bit. So right now there's just 2 of us that do plan reviews. So we probably will have to maybe add another person in to do at least the residential stuff if it really starts blowing up. But I don't foresee it being an issue, slowing anything down. That's definitely not our, we don't want that to happen, yeah.
What's our turnaround on residential right now, Shannon?
Residential, it's like 5 to 7 business days.
So we will try to keep that turnaround time. On commercial, sometimes takes 20, but on the residential part, we're going to try to keep those deadlines. We don't want to extend the process, so depending on how the adoption goes, we'll work together to try to keep those deadlines and turnaround time the way they want.
What areas do you work in mostly that have the sprinklers?
The only one we have so far is Commerce City.
Okay.
Yeah. But I work from Colorado Springs all the way to Fort Collins, so I'm hearing it up and down.
Yeah. Is anybody working in Boulder area doing anything over that way? On the west side of I-25? No? Okay. All right. Well, if you do go that way, they already have it all set up, so.
All right. Well, thank you. Appreciate your time. And feedback, and again, provide your comments, and we're going to incorporate those into the process.